I knew something was off when Cheryl from HR knocked on my office door and whispered, "Hey, you forgot to initial the new NDA." I didn't. I never forget anything. That's why the damn company ran like a freshly oiled turbine instead of a flaming hoverboard strapped to a toddler. Still, I signed the paper, handed it back, and dove right back into translating legal jargon into code triggers for the $300 million Macrovia merger. The one they kept hyping like the second coming at every town hall. Though nobody really got what it meant. In the high-stakes world of tech mergers, one misstep can tank everything. Bloomberg reported last year that 15% of tech mergers fail due to compliance hiccups. Often because some critical role gets overlooked. At Core Links, we were supposed to be untouchable, sleek, innovative, bulletproof, or so they thought. 12 years. That's how long I'd been at Core Links. Not loudly, not glamorously. I wasn't part of the ping-pong table crew or the Slack warriors typing manifestos about company culture on our internal wiki. I was the one who made sure merger protocols passed SEC scrutiny. Who built the quiet integration lattice between Macrovia's creaky legacy system and our Frankenstein backend. Patched together through 5 CTOs. The boring stuff. The critical stuff. The stuff nobody noticed until it broke. And I was the one crawling in at 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve to stitch it back together. That morning, I had 3 monitors glowing, 2 half-drunk coffees gone cold on my desk, and a post-it screaming, "Ask Legal about Clause 9. Circled in angry red. Behind me, the office buzzed with startup bravado, project managers strutting like they invented time. Devs debating if Jason had enough soul. And an intern looping the same 30 seconds of a Kendrick Lamar track until I nearly stapled his AirPods to the desk. In the middle of that chaos, I sat in my corner, reviewing the final compliance docs for Macrovia. My name, Amanda R. Delaney, was stamped on the federal paperwork, third-party signatory, neutral witness, clearance liaison. I was the bridge. Nobody else in the company had that clearance. Nobody else even wanted it. The training was 6 months of bureaucratic torture and a psych eval. Like getting licensed to whisper in the sec's ear. They handed me the keys. Then forgot I had them. I didn't mind. Being invisible has its perks. You build quietly while the loudmouths drown in their own buzzwords. I wasn't chasing the spotlight. I just wanted clean systems, tight documentation, and uninterrupted coffee. Oh, and if you're still listening and haven't subscribed, what's the holdup? Hit that button and give us a like. 90% of you are ghosts. I see the stats. Come on. It means the world to our little team grinding to make these stories binge-worthy. Rant over. The only ones who noticed me were the ones who knew how fragile the whole operation was. Terry in legal, Joanna in Macrovia's compliance office. My old boss before he ditched us for alpaca farming or whatever burnout excuse he spun. To everyone else, I was just Amanda from integration, quiet, middle-aged, overdressed, overcaffeinated, underappreciated. Then Tate showed up. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. That day, I logged into the clearance system to file my final sign-off. The Macrovia deal was set to close in 72 hours. My signature was the last domino. Everything was lined up, months of work. Beacon protocols, audit triggers, third-party sign-offs, cross-border data compliance. But I paused. Something felt off. Not quite sure what. But I opened my personal folder labeled contingency and double-checked the clause I'd flagged months ago. Just in case. Here's what nobody at Core Links ever got. I didn't build systems for them. I built them in spite of them. I knew one day they'd trip over their own arrogance and try to toss someone like me under the bus. And I wasn't going down without a lit fuse and a locked door. They say when a company wants to screw you quietly, they do it on a Wednesday morning with free bagels. That's exactly how it went down. The email hit at 9:13 a.m. All hands mandatory. 10 sharp. Exec team intro plus org updates. Don't miss it. HR code for new boss. Heads will roll. Enter Tate Mallory, the new COO. Mid-40s. All jawline and Red Bull energy. Rocking a suit that probably cost more than my Camry. He had that startup cult vibe. The kind of guy who thinks, synergy, is a personality trait and calls spreadsheets weapons of mass disruption. He smiled too much, talked too fast, branded himself a fixer. I knew from minute one we were all broken in his eyes. He rambled for 42 minutes about agility, modernization, and legacy tech rot. People clapped like he was Moses descending from a Wi-Fi-enabled Mount Sinai. I just sipped my burnt coffee and opened my terminal to fix a data bridge nobody else even knew was failing. 3 hours later, Cheryl knocked again. No papers this time. Just 2 HR reps. One with a clipboard, one with dead eyes. Amanda, can we speak privately? Translation. Brace yourself. They led me to a side room like I was being diagnosed with something terminal. No eye contact. No water. Just a manila envelope slid across the table like a ransom note. Tate didn't even show up. The letter was half buzzwords, half redundancy, shifting core competencies. Your role no longer aligns with strategic vision. I was still reading when clipboard lady said, "You'll need to return your badge and laptop by 3 p.m., dead eyes added. Security's been informed. I stood, walked to the door, and froze. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. My face on a printed photo at the front desk. Where they kept lost keys and dying plants. Scrawled in red marker. Do not let her back. Not employee. Not Amanda. Just a threat taped to laminate. It hit like a sucker punch in a dark alley. I'd trained their last 3 CTOs. I'd kept their biggest deal alive with duct tape and caffeine. I'd missed funerals, birthdays, anniversaries to babysit their server migrations. And now I was a liability in Spanx. I didn't cry. That would have been giving them a win. I took a breath, walked to my desk, and packed my things into a cardboard box. Like some cliché sitcom firing. Except this was real. My palms were ice. My heart was a jackhammer. Everyone avoided eye contact like failure was contagious. My assistant, Kyle, mouthed, "I'm so sorry," from across the floor. I gave him a nod and a half smile. Then I did 2 things. First, I handed Kyle my badge. No scene. No speech. Just a quiet goodbye and the soft click of a lanyard hitting fake wood. Second, I stepped outside, sat in my car, and opened my phone. I accessed my secure Vault app, navigated to the encrypted key store, and deleted 1 key, not a password, not a file, but the key tied to my clearance certificate. The one every Macrovia integration handshake depended on. Without it, the system couldn't verify the third-party sign-off. Without it, the merger couldn't close. Without me, they were holding a live grenade with no pin. I didn't smile or cackle. I didn't even exhale hard. I just drove away, hands steady, eyes forward. They thought they were charging toward the future. But they just torched the only bridge they couldn't rebuild. Harvard Business Review says 70 to 90% of mergers fail due to integration issues. Often because key players are mishandled. CoreLinks was about to join that statistic. And I was the architect of their downfall, not out of spite, but survival. Each mile home peeled away layers of corporate loyalty that had chained me for years. I didn't take my coat off when I got home. I stood in the doorway, staring at my keys like they might vanish if I blinked. The house was too quiet. No Slack pings. No, "Hey, Amanda, quick question," followed by 3 hours of unpaid work. Just the kitchen clock ticking and the fridge humming. My office life sat in a cardboard box on the table like a dead pet. A mug reading, "I void warranties." A half-used notebook of VPN tunnels and margin notes. A tin of mints for late-night sugar crashes. It all felt alien. Like I'd crash-landed in a diorama of my own burnout. I headed to the hallway closet, past winter coats and a broken printer I swore I'd fix, and pulled out a fireproof file box. I popped the locks and flipped through tabs in my neat handwriting. Legal. Clearance. Protocols. Red flag. Then I grabbed the contingency folder. I'd prepped it 2 years ago, not paranoia. Just attention to detail. You don't sit through a year of merger calls, hearing execs lie about redundancy plans, without preparing for the day they call you expendable. The folder was thick for someone they called legacy tech. I skipped past org charts, platform architecture, SEC correspondence, and found it, the Macrovia Protocol Checklist. My name was on every page. Certified third-party liaison. Neutral clearance authority. I flipped to the last 2 pages. Clause 9c. Termination of named liaison without formal substitution and recertification voids compliance status and suspends the acquisition's legal standing. In plain English, fire me without a cleared replacement who completes the checklist. And the merger's a $300 million paperweight. No, Amanda. No deal. I sat down, the paper's edges biting my hands like it knew its worth. I never mentioned this clause because nobody asked. Most didn't even read the merger docs. They just handed me coffee and assumed I'd keep the train on the tracks while they posed for LinkedIn. Not anymore. I wasn't crying. That part of me froze in the HR room when I saw my photo labeled like a wanted poster. This wasn't grief, it was precision. They didn't just fire me, they blew up their own timeline. And they didn't even know it yet. They were probably high-fiving in a conference room, printing a new org chart with Tate's smirking face at the top. I flipped to the final sign-off line. My signature was supposed to go there. It never would. The checklist wasn't just paperwork. It was a federal mandate, tied to compliance databases, data privacy rules, international banking approvals. Every landmine the lawyers swore wasn't an issue as long as I was on board. Oops. I leaned back, the paper resting on my lap, and exhaled through my nose. This wasn't revenge or sabotage, it was mechanics. Remove the keystone. The arch falls. Basic physics. Deloitte's merger reports warn that such failures can spark lawsuits, stock crashes, even bankruptcies. CoreLinks was teetering, and I held the shove. I grabbed my old laptop from the closet, powered it up, and opened an encrypted drive I hadn't touched in 6 months. Inside were backup logs, keeper registries, liaison handshake protocols, everything they'd now scramble to rebuild from scratch with some IT guy named Dustin who still couldn't find the right VPN on day 3. I checked the logs. The key deletion I'd made from my phone had propagated to the federal handshake server. Timestamped, locked, irrevocable. They didn't know yet, but the storm was coming. I sipped cold coffee from my office mug. Tomorrow, Macrovia would notice something missing. And the screaming would start. The call took less than 4 minutes. No rehearsal, no pacing, no bullet points like I do for big meetings. I sat at my dining table. Merger folder open beside a bowl of cereal I'd abandoned hours ago. And dialed a number I knew by heart. Macrovia Compliance. This is Greg Taylor. His voice was chipper. Too chipper for someone standing on a $300 million cliff. Hi, Greg, I said, calm and flat. Amanda Delaney. A pause. Papers shuffling. A mouse click. Oh, hey, I was just looking at your final checklist. We were expecting your sign-off this week. You calling to confirm it went through? I leaned back, eyes tracing sunlight pooling on the carpet like nothing was wrong. Not exactly. Just checking on the process flow. Any updates on your end before I submit anything further? A longer pause. Wait. You haven't submitted it? No. Okay. But why? His voice dropped. The cheer gone. They terminated me yesterday. Silence. Like the air fled the line. I'm sorry. What? No worries. It happens. Just thought you'd want to know before proceeding. I can have my attorney send formal notice if needed. He sounded like he was rifling through papers, searching for proof this was a prank. They fired you? I'm no longer with CoreLinks. Badge revoked. Systems access disabled. Officially gone. But, you're the named liaison. Your credentials are hardwired into the process. Your ID's in the acquisition binder. Interagency compliance flags are tied to your profile. We can't just swap you out. That's correct. I let that sink in. I'll send formal notice soon. I added. Wouldn't want ambiguity. I hung up. No flair. No drama. Just a clean cut through their acquisition spine. Then I called my lawyer. Daniel didn't ask questions until page 3 of the termination letter. Already drafting a 2-sentence bombshell for Macrovia's legal team. Amanda Delaney no longer represents CoreLink Systems in any capacity. Effective immediately. The second that hit, Macrovia slammed the brakes, halted signatures, froze the merger account, paused fund authorizations and escrow triggers. 5 minutes later, A system alert pinged. Secure access handshake failed, key mismatch. That's gonna keep happening, fellas. Then I got petty. I texted Kyle, my old assistant, green. Clumsy, but sharp enough to feel the ground cracking. They might want to check Clause 9C. Just a thought. Hope you're okay. No emoji. No signature. 3 minutes later, he replied, what the hell is Clause 9C? Everyone's freaking out. Did you hear something? I didn't respond. Let him marinate. It wasn't cruelty, it was a lesson. The kind you learn when the ice splits and the lifeboats are gone. I stared out the window. The sun dipped behind the neighbor's roof. Christmas lights across the street blinking like a nervous twitch. It was March. I felt weightless, not smug. Not giddy. Just right. They hadn't just given me leverage. They'd gift-wrapped it and overnighted it to my door. I didn't need to yell or scheme. I was the consequence. And they were about to learn what happens when you cut the foundation loose and expect the house to stand. The next morning, the storm clouds were gathering over CoreLink's headquarters. And nobody had thought to bring an umbrella. The merger signing was scheduled for 10 a.m., a full-blown executive circus with polished shoes, power ties, and legal briefs lined up like dominoes. Macrovia's delegation was supposed to sweep in, flash million-dollar smiles, and put pen to paper while everyone pretended the deal wasn't already done in spirit. But 10 o'clock came and went. No Macrovia, no delegation, no chief legal officer, no signatures, just silence, thick and heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. By 10:12, Tate stood at the head of the executive conference room, one hand in his pocket, the other nervously clicking a Sharpie like it might magically fix the mess. Well, he said, forcing a smirk, you know how these legacy firms are, slow, paper heavy. We'll fix it internally. He repeated that last part like a mantra. We'll fix it internally. Except the problem was already internal. And it was about to detonate. 3 floors down, the whispers had started. Kyle, bless his nervous Gen Z heart, couldn't keep his mouth shut. He'd mentioned Clause 9C to a junior analyst, who dove into the company's dusty shared drive, found my original merger protocol draft from months ago, and sent a screenshot to a friend in legal. By 11:37, it was on Slack, spreading like wildfire through the channels. By noon, the panic had legs. The general counsel stormed out of his office, barking for someone to dig up the original signatory logs. HR was in meltdown. Compliance froze 3 pending invoices. And legal started asking who'd signed off on my termination. The merger lead tried calling Macrovia directly and got stonewalled with a polite but icy, "We are currently reviewing internal documentation irregularities. Please stand by. Corporate speak for you screwed the pooch. And we're not cleaning it up." Meanwhile, I was at home, sitting at my kitchen table in sweatpants, pouring almond milk into my cereal and watching the chaos unfold in real time. LinkedIn was buzzing with cryptic posts from industry insiders. A finance blog dropped a blind item. Unnamed Ohio-based tech firm loses key compliance asset mid-merger. Deal in limbo. $300 million on the line. They didn't name CoreLinks. But they didn't have to. Inside the building, the air was turning to ice. My phone rang at 10:04 p.m., a blocked number. I declined it. It rang again, this time the CFO's direct line. Declined again. The third time, it went to voicemail. I let it play. His voice was high-pitched, cracking like a balloon about to pop. "Amanda, hi, look, I know this is not ideal, but we've had a bit of a hiccup with the signing today. And I was wondering if we could connect briefly, just to clarify some details on the compliance chain. Nothing major, you know, dotting I's, crossing T's. Call me." I played it twice, then deleted it. A hiccup? This wasn't a hiccup. It was a lung collapse. I opened my laptop and checked the Federal Liaison Registry again. My name was still there. No substitution filed. No recertification request submitted. No alternate key in place. Without that key, Macrovia's automated signature sequence couldn't pass the compliance gate. No handshake. No merger. No exceptions. The more they panicked, the calmer I got. It was like watching a fire you didn't start. But you'd quietly remove the batteries from the smoke alarm. The kind of power that doesn't need applause, it just is. Undeniable and irreversible. Kyle texted again. They're freaking out. Legal's blaming IT. It's blaming legal. Tate says it's a temporary credentialing bug. This is insane. He followed up with, did you do this? I sent a single emoji, a shrug, and let them interpret it however they wanted. I made a grilled cheese sandwich, watched reruns of Judge Judy, and answered a few emails for my side consulting gig. The one I'd kept quiet for the last 6 months. Just in case. At 4 p.m., a mass calendar invite went out to the company. Emergency all hands. 4:30 p.m. Conference room alpha. Subject line. Realignment and roadmap discussion. Translation. Damage control. That room was about to be a pressure cooker of buzzwords and flop sweat. And I wasn't even on the guest list anymore. But I was watching, quiet and steady, letting the ripples spread. According to a 2023 McKinsey report, 60% of failed mergers stem from poor communication and mismanaged key personnel. CoreLinks was speedrunning that statistic. And I was the ghost in the machine. By 9:06 a.m. the next day, the email landed in my inbox. Subject line. Pending merger. Immediate compliance review required. It was cold, bureaucratic, and devastating, to whom it may concern, due to the unplanned termination of the listed third-party liaison without replacement. Macrovia Group is formally pausing all executional aspects of the acquisition. Compliance obligations under Section 4.7 and 9C are currently unmet until resolution. Transaction is considered suspended indefinitely. 4 lines. No room for spin. No wiggle room. The kind of message that makes CFOs drop their coffee and HR reps dry heave into the recycling bin. I was still in sweatpants, sipping coffee, watching it all burn from 3 zip codes away. LinkedIn was ablaze now. A post from a Macrovia insider read, always verify your bridges before you burn them. I couldn't have said it better. My lawyer, Daniel, sent the final documentation 30 minutes later, notarized. Signed in blue ink. Priority mail with digital confirmation. The letter was short but lethal. Ms. Amanda Delaney has no further professional, contractual, or advisory obligations to CoreLink systems. Effective retroactively to the date of her termination. All compliance duties tied to the Macrovia transaction have ceased. Daniel added a flourish about proprietary knowledge and third-party vendor independence without me even asking. He's a pro, he knew what was coming. The moment that letter hit Macrovia's compliance inbox, the door slammed shut. Legally, structurally, practically, they couldn't just hire a new liaison and pick up where I left off. The deal wasn't a PDF you could forward, it was a hand-stitched parachute. And I'd been the one holding the needle. Remove me, and they're free falling. That afternoon, I opened a new tab and registered Quiet Seal LLC. It took 11 minutes, registered agent. Bank account pending. Just like that, Amanda Delaney wasn't an employee anymore. I was an entity, a vendor, a firewall with a mailing address and a licensing clause. My phone stayed quiet most of the day. No more CFO calls. No desperate Kyle texts, but I could feel the boardroom tremors. The whispers were starting. Did Amanda have side equity in the Macrovia pipeline? Was she the one who built the data bridge? Was she a vendor this whole time? No, I wasn't, but they wanted to believe I was. Because the alternative was admitting they'd ignored a salaried ghost until she became the keystone holding up their castle. Funny how people rewrite history when the present catches fire. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 2 words. Well played. No name, no signature, maybe someone from legal. Maybe Macrovia's COO. Maybe another ghost who'd watched from the wings. I didn't reply. I was done playing. This wasn't a game anymore, it was architecture. A clean, elegant collapse. An old building razed not with dynamite but with precision. 1 screw removed. 1 key revoked. 1 signature withheld. The betrayal didn't sting anymore, that was over. Now I felt focused, unburdened, like I'd shed a skin that never fit right. Somewhere downtown, Tate was probably sweating through his shirt. staring at Clause 9C projected on a conference room wall like it was the Zodiac Killer's cipher. And me? I was drafting a tagline for Quiet Seal LLC's website, Compliance Without Compromise. It had a nice ring. The chaos at Core Links didn't slow down. By mid-morning, the elevator whispers had metastasized into full-blown panic. Someone leaked a redlined document from Macrovia's legal team. Termination of Amanda Delaney voids acquisition standing. The phrase ricocheted through the halls like a grenade. Directors sat bolt upright in meetings. Phones rang nonstop, and lawyers shouted like caged dogs while PR scrambled to draft contingency statements in case the news hit the press. It did. Another blog post dropped. Tech firm's merger implodes over compliance misstep. $300 million deal on ice. Still no names. But the industry knew. Inside Core Links, the mood was arctic. The CFO called again. This time not bothering with pleasantries. Amanda, I swear, this is your fault. You're holding us hostage. Do you know the position you've put us in? This could kill the company. I didn't answer. Just watched the screen buzz on the table. Then another voicemail. This time pleading. Amanda. We're flexible. Please call back. We can work something out. Macrovia won't accept anyone else. They're saying, material personnel discrepancy. It's a technicality, right? We can fix it. I deleted it without a second listen. A technicality? They'd burned the foundation and were shocked the roof caved in. Macrovia wasn't budging. No workarounds. No interim liaison. No emergency substitutions. Their final response was 3 lines. We do not accept interim authorization under Clause 9C. Acquisition terms voided. Contract suspended. Tate tried to spin it in a meeting, muttering about rebuilding trust. Someone in legal reportedly laughed out loud. The finance lead looked like he was about to cry. Then they made a fatal mistake. They thought they could salvage this with charm. Pressure. An in-person theatrics. So they sent someone to my house. Late afternoon. A gray Lexus parked awkwardly across my driveway. A guy in a blazer stepped out, clutching a manila envelope and radiating the kind of hope that smells like desperation. He rang the bell. Waited. Rang again. I was inside. Lights off. Sitting at the kitchen table with tea and faint jazz in the background. Flipping through licensing terms for a new client inquiry that had hit Quiet Seal's inbox. He knocked. I didn't move. I watched him on the doorbell cam, pacing. Checking his phone. Muttering. Finally, he wedged the envelope in the screen door and left. I let it sit until the wind blew it off the porch. I didn't need to read it. I knew what it said. Apologies. Offers. Hints at reinstatement. They still thought this was about a job. They didn't get that I'd already built a new world from their scraps. This wasn't a grudge or revenge. It was finality. Done letting people talk over me in meetings while I kept their infrastructure alive. Done translating their mistakes into code fixes. Done playing Sherpa to a summit I was never invited to celebrate. So when they knocked, I didn't flinch. I sipped my tea, watched the sky darken, and let the storm swirl behind a door that would never open again. The next day, I got an email from a former colleague, not Kyle. Someone higher up. Someone who'd stayed silent for years. You warned us about Clause 9C 6 months ago. Nobody listened. Now they're screwed. Respect. I didn't reply, but it felt like a nod from the shadows. The world was shifting, and I was already 3 steps ahead, building something new while they scrambled in the rubble of their own making. By Tuesday morning, the atmosphere inside Core Links had gone from damage control to full-blown cardiac arrest. The board called an emergency session, no PowerPoints. No catered breakfast. Just red faces and clashing egos. The kind of meeting where voices overlap so loudly you forget there's a fire because the smoke alarms were ripped out during some half-baked modernization sprint. Tate sat at the head of the table, looking like a drowned possum in a tailored suit. His swagger was gone. His voice, once a confident drone of startup jargon, cracked like he'd swallowed a pine cone. He started. I think we may have underestimated the depth of Amanda's legacy role. But didn't get 6 syllables further before Carl, the lead investor, a wiry man with hawk eyes and a voice like gravel and litigation, slammed a folder shut and leaned forward. Who? Carl asked, his tone dangerously quiet. Authorized her termination without a transition plan? Silence hit the room like a blackout. The general counsel stared at his shoes. The CFO went pale. And a board member coughed into her sleeve like it could shield her from the fallout. Tate tried again, mumbling about group consensus and performance metrics. Carl raised a hand. No more startup buzzwords. A $300 million deal is dead. Macrovia won't re-engage without Amanda's credentials. You didn't fire a developer, you severed a compliance artery. So, again, who signed off? The room stayed quiet, but the answer was written in their faces. Nobody wanted to own it. The decision had been a collective shrug. A cavalier wave of hands in a meeting where streamlining was thrown around like confetti. Meanwhile, a security still from my last day had leaked to the public. My photo, taped to the front desk with, "Do not let her back," scrawled in red marker. Hit LinkedIn with a caption. How you treat your veterans tells the rest of us everything we need to know. It went viral. Former employees piled on in the comments. Clients screenshotted it, and even Macrovia's CCO liked the post, sending CoreLink's legal team into a tailspin. Someone printed the image and brought it to the boardroom. Nobody wanted to touch it, but nobody dared throw it away either. It sat there like a guilty conscience, staring down the executives who'd thought they could erase me with a manila envelope and a 2-minute meeting. That afternoon, Tate sent a formal offer through HR, double salary, a title bump, enhanced authority. The email landed in my lawyer's inbox like a Hail Mary wrapped in tinsel. Daniel forwarded it to me with one question. Want to ghost them or write back? I told him to write back. His reply was a masterpiece of restraint. Ms. Delaney appreciates your revised offer. However, she no longer holds employee status at CoreLink Systems. Should your organization wish to re-engage her expertise, Quiet Seal LLC is available for limited licensing of relevant services. Market rates apply. Retainer required. Engagement subject to availability. Short. Surgical. No drama, just facts. No more company badge. No more office politics. No more being taped to a desk like a pariah. The offer leaked by evening. Probably by a fed-up HR staffer. Pasted into a staff thread titled, Emergency Staffing Update. It spread faster than any memo Tate ever wrote. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. I wasn't just Amanda from compliance anymore. I was the woman who'd brought a $300 million merger to its knees without raising her voice. Kyle texted again. You really said double it and walked away? I didn't reply. He wasn't wrong. I hadn't burned the bridge. I'd turned it into a toll road. And now they could pay the fare or watch the wreckage from the shore. The fallout was relentless. By Wednesday, Macrovia doubled down, issuing a statement that hit the wire at 7:13 a.m. due to unresolvable compliance gaps and personnel discrepancies. Macrovia Group has terminated its acquisition proceedings with CoreLink Systems. We wish all parties well. 4 sentences, cold as a scalpel, delivered like a bullet in a silk envelope. By 9 a.m., CoreLink's stock was in freefall. $300 million in projected value vanishing like a magician's rabbit. But without the applause. A leaked investor call transcript painted a brutal picture. Carl screaming. The general counsel deflecting. Tate leaving mid-call with his mic still hot. Muttering something about fixing this internally. The CFO resigned via webcast that afternoon. Pale and hollow, spouting cliches about new opportunities and family time that nobody bought. He was fleeing a smoking crater. I never set foot in their building again. Not when they sent another courier with a revised offer. Not when the interim CTO begged for a quick coffee chat. But I did open the door for a courier on Friday morning. He handed me a small velvet box. No sender label, just a gold seal I recognized from Macrovia's executive suite. Inside, nestled in silk, was a handwritten note. Next time, they'll know who built the bridge. RM. CEO. Macrovia Group. No pitch. No ask. Just recognition. The kind that lands like a gavel. I set it on my bookshelf. Right between the merger binders and Quiet Seal's operating agreement. Then I walked to my new desk. My home office didn't reek of burnt coffee or recycled ambition. it smelled of fresh pine and control. 3 screens lit up, none tied to Slack, none beholden to anyone who'd call me legacy. Quiet Seal LLC had just signed its 3rd client. One of them was Core Links. They didn't want to, but they had to. They were licensing an integration I'd architected. The same one they'd once called obsolete. Now it was critical, and I held the keys. I charged them quadruple the original rate. No complaints, they knew why. The buzz didn't stop. LinkedIn was a war zone of hot takes and veiled shade. A former colleague posted, "Undervaluing your Keystone employees is a $300 million mistake. Learn from it." Another from Macrovia's team, "Due diligence isn't just financial, it's human." The comments were flooded with stories of other companies that had tanked deals by sidelining critical players. A 2024 Gartner study backed it up. 65% of merger failures tie back to mismanaged human capital. Core Links was a case study in the making. I sipped my coffee, now warm, and watched the light catch the edge of that velvet box. My phone buzzed. Another email. Subject: respectfully requesting your terms. I smiled, took a slow sip, and let it linger on my tongue. I wasn't chasing anymore. I was the terms. The fallout kept spiraling. By Friday afternoon, Core Links board was in chaos. Another emergency meeting. This one with investors dialing in from 3 continents. Their voices crackling with fury over Zoom. Tate tried to spin the narrative again, promising to rebuild the compliance chain with a new liaison. But Macrovia's response was a brick wall. No alternate liaison meets the federal clearance requirements within the timeline. The deal wasn't just paused, it was dead. And the corpse was starting to stink. PR tried to pivot, issuing a statement about strategic realignment and future opportunities. But the internet wasn't buying it. A tech blog ran a piece titled, "How to Tank a Merger in 3 Easy Steps," with a not-so-subtle nod to Core Links' blunder. The comment section was merciless. "This is what happens when you treat your backbone like a footstool." I got another text from Kyle. "They're calling you the ghost who broke the deal. People are scared to even say your name now." I laughed for the first time in days. Not a loud laugh, just a quiet one. The kind that comes when you realize the world's finally catching up. I didn't need to be loud. I built my leverage in silence. Back at Core Links, the blame game was in overdrive. HR pointed fingers at legal. Legal blamed Tate, and Tate threw IT under the bus, claiming they should have flagged the key store issue. Dustin, the poor IT guy, was probably Googling VPN while the execs screamed. Nobody wanted to admit the truth. They'd all signed off on my exit, assuming I was replaceable. A 2023 Harvard Business Review article nailed it. The biggest risk in mergers isn't technology, it's hubris. Core Links was learning that lesson the hard way. I spent the evening reviewing Quiet Seal's first client contracts. One was a small fintech startup, another a logistics firm. Both needed compliance frameworks, and I was their architect. No office politics, no buzzwords, just clean systems and clear terms. My phone buzzed again, an email from a former Core Links colleague. Someone I barely knew from accounting. "I saw what happened. You were the only one who kept things running. Sorry I never said it before." I archived it without replying. Apologies don't rebuild bridges, they just acknowledge the ashes. The sun set outside, painting my office gold. I leaned back, the weight of 12 years lifting with every breath. Core Links was still scrambling, but I was already building something new. Something mine, and they'd never see it coming. The weeks following Macrovia's pullout were a masterclass in corporate implosion. Core Links headquarters, once a buzzing hive of innovation pretensions, now felt like a ghost ship adrift in choppy waters. Layoffs whispers turned into announcements, first the junior devs, then mid-level managers, all while Tate clung to his COO throne like a barnacle on a sinking hull. The stock, already battered, dipped another 12% in after-hours trading, wiping out millions in market cap overnight. Investors were furious, filing motions for emergency audits, and the SEC started sniffing around, prompted by anonymous tips about compliance irregularities. A Wall Street Journal op-ed dissected the fiasco, calling it a textbook case of executive hubris. Citing how companies like Enron and WeWork had fallen for similar reasons, undervaluing the quiet architects who hold everything together. CoreLinks was joining that infamous club. And I was the unintended whistleblower without ever blowing a whistle. From my home office, I watched it all unfold like a slow-motion train wreck on Bloomberg terminals and Reddit threads. Our tech failures had a megathread dedicated to the story, with users sharing memes of Tate's LinkedIn profile photoshopped onto Titanic's captain. One comment read, "This is what happens when you fire your Gandalf mid-quest." I didn't engage, but it was hard not to feel a twinge of validation. Quiet Seal LLC was thriving in the shadows of their collapse. My inbox was flooded with inquiries, firms spooked by the news, seeking bulletproof compliance frameworks. One was a rival to Macrovia, offering a six-figure retainer for advisory on their own merger. I accepted, with ironclad terms that put me in control. No more being invisible, now I was the consultant they couldn't afford to ignore. Kyle reached out one last time. His text a mix of awe and desperation. "The place is a madhouse. Tate's blaming everyone but himself. They're talking class action suits from shareholders. What do I do?" I replied for the first time. "Update your resume. And remember Clause 9C. It was curt, but kind. The kid had potential. If he learned from this. He wasn't the only one jumping ship. LinkedIn showed exodus of CoreLinks alumni updating their statuses to open to work. Some even messaged me privately, offering apologies wrapped in networking requests. "Hey Amanda, sorry about how things went down. Coffee sometime?" I archived them all. Forgiveness wasn't on my agenda, forward motion was. Tate made one final play. A desperate email blast to the board leaked to the press. "We can salvage this with a pivot to AI integrations. Legacy tech is dead anyway." But the irony was lost on no one. My legacy work was the only thing keeping their Frankenstein backend from total meltdown. A Forbes article piled on, noting that 75% of tech mergers fail due to integration oversights, per a PwC study. And CoreLinks had textbooked it by axing their integration queen. The piece even quoted an anonymous source, probably Joanna from Macrovia, saying, "They burned the bridge while standing on it." Shares tumbled further, and by week's end, Carl the investor demanded Tate's resignation in a fiery conference call that made its way to YouTube via a disgruntled employee's recording. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I poured energy into Quiet Seal. I hired a virtual assistant, set up a sleek website with testimonials from my new clients, and even started a blog, Lessons from the Compliance Trenches. The first post? The hidden costs of firing your keystone. It went viral in niche circles, racking up shares from compliance pros who'd lived similar nightmares. One commenter, a veteran from Google's antitrust battles, wrote, "This is gold. Wish I'd had this foresight in '08. Drawing from real-world data. I wove in stats." A Deloitte survey showed 83% of executives regret hasty terminations in high-stakes projects, often leading to 20 to 30% project delays or outright failures. CoreLinks was Exhibit A, their merger corpse, a cautionary tale. As the dust settled, Macrovia's CEO, RM, followed up on his note with a discreet call. "Amanda, we've been watching Quiet Seal. Impressive pivot. Any interest in a strategic partnership?" His voice was warm, respectful, the opposite of Tate's bluster. "We talked terms. No acquisition. Just collaboration on select deals. With me retaining full autonomy." I agreed, on my conditions. It was poetic, the company that benefited from CoreLinks' blunder now extending an olive branch. We sealed it over a virtual handshake. And just like that, Quiet Seal's valuation spiked in my mental ledger. No more duct taping others' messes. Now I was the architect firms called first. Back at CoreLinks, the interim leadership tried to staunch the bleeding. They outsourced compliance to a big-name firm. But the damage was done, their reputation was tarnished. Clients hesitant. A Glassdoor review surge painted a grim picture. Toxic culture. Undervalues talent. Ratings plummeted to 2.1 stars. Tate finally stepped down. His exit announcement a bland press release about pursuing new ventures. Rumors swirled he was consulting for a crypto startup. But insiders whispered he was toxic now. Untouchable in serious circles. The board, desperate, even floated rehiring me as a consultant, at triple rates. Daniel fielded the call. His response a polite deflection. Quiet Seal is booked for the quarter. Perhaps next fiscal year? I spent evenings reflecting. The velvet box a talisman on my shelf. The house felt alive now. Not silent, filled with the hum of my own empire building. I adopted a cat, named her Claus, and let her curl on my lap during late-night code reviews. Life wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. CoreLink's fall was a backdrop, not the main act. A McKinsey report echoed in my mind. Successful turnarounds start with recognizing undervalued assets. I'd been theirs, now I was my own. The story hit podcasts next. Corporate Revenge Tales featured an anonymized version. The host dubbing me the silent saboteur. Listeners ate it up, debating ethics in the comments. Was it sabotage or self-defense? I knew the answer. Mechanics. Remove the pin. The grenade goes boom. Simple. Quiet Seal signed Client 4, a healthcare tech firm navigating HIPAA mazes. Their CEO, a woman like me, said, I read about CoreLinks. Won't make that mistake. We laughed, bonded over coffee-stained merger docs. As summer faded, CoreLinks filed for restructuring, shedding divisions like deadweight. The Macrovia deal's ghost haunted their earnings calls. Analysts grilling the new CFO. How do you prevent another Clause 9C? He stammered platitudes about enhanced HR protocols. Too late. My blog post on it garnered invites to speak at compliance conferences. I accepted one, virtual, titled The Human Factor in Tech Mergers. Slides included anonymized charts from my CoreLinks days. Backed by IDC data, 40% of integration failures stem from personnel gaps. Kyle landed a job at a startup. Texting thanks. You saved me. Learned more from this than 4 years there. Good kid. Tate surfaced on LinkedIn, posting motivational quotes about failure being a teacher. Cringe. I blocked him. Life moved on. Quiet Seal hit 6 figures in revenue. I hired real staff, even considered an office, but home sufficed. Control intact. One rainy afternoon, a package arrived, no sender. Inside, my old office mug. I void warranties. With a note. Found this in storage. Thought you'd want it back. Cheryl, HR Cheryl, the whisperer of NDAs. I smiled, filled it with coffee, a relic from the past. Now a trophy. The merger's echo faded, but the lesson lingered. Build quietly. Strike precisely. Rise unstoppably. Months turned into a year. And the remnants of CoreLinks faded like a bad dream in the rearview mirror. The company, once a darling of Ohio's tech scene, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Their assets auctioned off to the highest bidders, mostly competitors who'd watched the spectacle with popcorn in hand. Tate's new ventures turned out to be a short-lived podcast on leadership failures. Ironically cancelled after 3 episodes due to low ratings. He vanished from LinkedIn, rumored to be flipping houses in Florida. A far cry from his days of preaching synergy from a glass-walled office. The board scattered, some facing shareholder lawsuits that dragged on in courtrooms. Their depositions a litany of, I don't recall, and finger-pointing. A CNBC special dissected the downfall, interviewing experts who cited CoreLinks as a prime example of merger myopia, where execs focus on the shiny prize and ignore the human glue holding it together. Viewership spiked, with clips going viral on TikTok under hashtags like #CorporateKarma. Quiet Seal LLC, meanwhile, had blossomed into a boutique powerhouse. I expanded to a small team, 5 sharp minds. All remote, all vetted for their disdain of buzzwords. Our client list read like a who's who of tech up-and-comers. A Silicon Valley AI startup navigating EU data regs. A biotech firm sealing a cross-border deal. Even a gaming company ensuring their metaverse complied with international privacy laws. Revenue hit 7 figures, and I turned down acquisition offers from bigger consultancies, preferring independence over golden handcuffs. My blog evolved into a newsletter with 50,000 subscribers. Each post blending war stories with hard data, like a KPMG report showing 55% of failed acquisitions trace back to compliance blind spots. Readers loved the mix of drama and insight. One email from a young engineer read, "Your story saved my career. I negotiated a keystone clause in my contract." Kyle thrived too, landing at a fintech unicorn where he championed Amanda protocols, redundancy plans for critical roles. He invited me to speak at their all-hands. I declined. But sent a video message. "Remember, invisibility is power until it's weaponized against you. Build your contingencies." It got a standing ovation. Or so he said. Macrovia. Our partnership solid. Referred clients my way. Their CEO becoming a mentor of sorts. Over encrypted video call. He shared, "We dodged a bullet with core links. But gained an ally in you. That's the real merger win. We collaborated on a white paper, the human firewall in M&A." Citing stats from Ernst & Young, 70% of deals derail from personnel issues, and our story is an anonymized case study. It downloaded thousands of times. Positioning Quiet Seal as thought leaders. Not everything was smooth. A rival firm tried poaching my team with flashy perks. I countered with equity shares and flexible hours. Retaining all. A disgruntled ex-Core Links exec anonymously trolled my LinkedIn, calling me the saboteur who tanked jobs. I ignored it. Karma had already spoken. Instead, I focused on philanthropy, donating to women in tech programs, inspired by my own overlooked years. At a virtual panel for WITI, Women in Technology International, I shared, I wasn't out for revenge, I was out for recalibration. Companies forget. Loyalty is earned, not assumed. The chat exploded with hearts and "Yas Queen" emojis, turning the session into a viral moment. One crisp fall day, a familiar number popped up. Cheryl from our. I answered. Curiosity piqued. "Amanda? It's Cheryl. I'm out of Core Links now. Starting over. Just wanted to say, you were right. We mishandled everything." Her voice cracked. A mix of regret and relief. I paused, then replied, "Water under the bridge. What's next for you?" We talked for an hour. She was pivoting to career coaching, focusing on employee rights. I offered a referral to a client. She accepted gratefully. It wasn't closure, it was evolution. No hard feelings, just lessons learned. The velvet box still sat on my shelf. A reminder of quiet power. Claus the cat batted at it occasionally, indifferent to its symbolism. My home office expanded into a sunroom edition. Screens humming with real-time compliance dashboards I'd coded myself. A new client call came in, a major e-commerce giant facing antitrust scrutiny. "We heard about your Core Links legend," their VP said. "We need that kind of foresight." I smiled, outlining terms that put Quiet Seal at the helm. As the call ended, I stepped outside, coffee in hand, watching leaves swirl in the wind. The world had shifted, not with a bang, but with a deleted key and a withheld signature. Reflecting on it all, I realized the true drama wasn't the fall, it was the rise. From underappreciated cog to industry force. Powered by precision and preparation. A Bain & Company study backed it. Resilient professionals turn setbacks into setups. With 80% of successful pivots stemming from proactive contingency planning. I'd lived it. The story inspired a fictionalized novel pitch from a publisher. I toyed with it, but kept details veiled. Real life was binge-worthy enough. As the sun set, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Another offer from a Core Links remnant. Quadruple rates this time. I laughed. "Tell them Quiet Seal's calendar is full. Indefinitely." He replied with a thumbs up. No more bridges to burn. I built an empire on solid ground. The end wasn't revenge, it was renaissance. And in the quiet, I thrived. Big thanks for sticking with this tale. You legends. If it hit home, smash that subscribe. Keep the revenge coffee brewing.